Live from the News First studios in Colombo, this is Primetime News. I am Sonali Wanigabaduge.
A very good evening. I am Shane Silva.
We start off with a look at tonight's headlines first.
President says information technology should not be used to sow hatred and intolerance. University lecturers reject higher education minister's offer of 3 months salary arrears if they report to work. And UPFA councillor nominated by the UNP elected as the chairman of the North Central Provincial Council.
The first session of the newly elected North Central Provincial Council was held today. TMR Siripala was elected as the chairman of the council.
At the beginning of the session, a vote was called to elect a new chairman. The UNP nominated ruling party councillor TMR Siripala for the position. The UPFA nominee was ruling party councillor Amrakirti Attukorala. While TMR Siripala secured 21 votes, Amrakirti Attukorala secured 10 votes. TMR Siripala was elected as the 6th chairman of the council with a majority of 11 votes. Following this, a media briefing was convened by the opposition leader of the North Central Provincial Council.
There's a huge crisis in the North Central Province today. We worked as a team to ensure that the nominee of the government for the position of chairman was defeated. We knew that no matter who we nominated, we would have won.
Meanwhile, the Divinaguma Bill was passed with a majority in the Eastern Provincial Council today. While 21 votes were cast in favour of the bill, 15 votes were cast against it. The Divinaguma Bill was also passed with a majority in the Central Provincial Council. 36 councillors voted for the bill, while 17 voted against it.
President Mahinda Rajapaksa says that information communication technology should not be used to sow hatred and intolerance. The President expressed this view while attending the Global Symposium for Regulators 2012, which began in Colombo this morning.
A group including Secretary to the President Lalit Weeratunga, Minister of Mass Media and Communication Keheliya Rambukwella and Senior Minister of Scientific Affairs Professor Tissa Vitarana attended the event.
This symposium of strategies and regulators in telecommunications and ICT look at all the challenges ahead. With the experience of recent weeks, you will think of ways to prevent this great technology being used to sow hatred. Examine how to avoid the advances in the instant of communication, being the source and cause of violence against faith, against culture and traditions that need respect and protection. ICT must not be the tool of societies that pay homage to material values and pay no heed to the values of decency, tolerance and humanity. You will study the areas where the better regulations is required, how these advances in technology can be abused as much as they are used to benefit people and societies. You will consider a new roadmap for progress in a field of technology that is on a path of continuing speedy growth. That is the challenge of this significant global forum.
The Global Symposium for Regulators 2012 will go on until the 4th of October in Colombo, with around 500 participants from around the world attending the event.
Meanwhile, following the opening of the symposium, the Secretary General of the International Telecommunication Union, Hamudun Toure, and the Secretary to the President and Chairman of the TRCSL, Lalit Weeratunga, addressed a media briefing.
Sri Lanka's very positive ICT development is a clear indicator of the success of the plans and strategies adopted by the government as part of its vision in making Sri Lanka one of Asia's digital star performers and an important new regional knowledge hub. We are today in the information society. Our ultimate goal is a knowledge society. So thinking of making this a knowledge hub is a very visionary statement.
The government of Sri Lanka gives very high priority, as you already know, to placing Sri Lanka at the cutting edge of new technologies, such as broadband, mobile, and the spread of digital technology throughout the length and breadth of the country, particularly in the rural and remote areas, as we steer our country forward in line with our vision and the goal of making Sri Lanka the wonder of Asia and the key regional digital hub.
United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon emphasized the need to find a political solution without further delay to the underlying factors of the conflict in Sri Lanka. In a meeting with Professor G.L. Peiris in New York, the duo exchanged views on the post-conflict situation in Sri Lanka and cooperation with the United Nations. The Secretary General noted that the government's latest efforts to implement the recommendations of the Lessons Learnt and Reconciliation Commission, as well as the steady progress in resettlement efforts in the north. Meanwhile, Professor G.L. Peiris was among the many foreign ministers who addressed the final day of the 67th sessions of the United Nations General Assembly. News First Shami Rasuldin reports.
Yesterday was the final day of the general debates on the 67th sessions of the United Nations General Assembly. Speaking at yesterday's sessions, the Minister of External Affairs, Professor G.L. Peiris, said that the Sri Lankan government respects the sovereignty and territorial integrity of other nations and added that the Sri Lankan government denounces all forms of terrorism.
As member states of the United Nations, we must respect the principles patiently negotiated by the international community. These are principally the equality of rights, the equal sovereignty of all states, and the right to development as underlined in the Rio +20 outcome document. The interests of the developing world must be entrenched and protected. Hence, no constraining conditions should be applied to development models or approaches adopted by member states which could prevent the achievement of sustainable development together with the eradication of poverty. Terrorism, Mr. President, remains a scourge in the contemporary world. It threatens our societies and impedes the socio-economic progress of our people. As a country which has emerged from ruthless and brutal terrorism, Sri Lanka continues resolutely to support all multilateral efforts to enhance peace and security and eliminate all forms of terrorism without discrimination. In our collective quest to eradicate terrorism, the selective application of principles and double standards must be scrupulously avoided. Terrorism, from wherever it emerges, must be unequivocally condemned and counteracted.
Addressing yesterday's session was also the Minister of External Affairs in Syria. He said that the international community is interfering in the country's internal affairs under the guise of humanitarian intervention. He further said that only the Syrian people have the right to choose their leadership. Many critics say that he was responding to the statement made by the Americans, French and the Germans asking Bashar al-Assad, the president of Syria, to step down.
I would like to tell you that the success of any international effort requires, in addition to the commitment of the Syrian government, committing the states supporting armed groups in my country, particularly Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Libya and others, to stop arming, funding, training and harboring armed terrorist groups and instead to encourage dialogue and renounce violence. In what context can we classify the explicit request of the United States from the armed terrorist groups not to surrender their arms as a response to amnesty decrees and decisions issued by the Syrian leadership?
We also wonder to what extent the statements of Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, the United States and France that clearly induce and support terrorism in Syria with money, weapons and foreign fighters are in line with the international responsibilities of these countries in combating terrorism.
بالمال والسلاح والمقاتلين الأجانب وما مدى انسجام كل ذلك مع المسؤوليات الدولية لهذه البلدان في مجال مكافحة الإرهاب.
During the last 1 week, nearly 193 representatives of national governments, including 123 world leaders and 70 foreign ministers, addressed the 67 sessions of the United Nations General Assembly. The General Assembly is the main deliberative, policy-making and representative organ of the United Nations and meets in regular sessions intensively from the months of September to December. Now, News First was in the forefront, reporting to you all the events that unfolded and kept you fully updated with regard to all the events that unfolded from the UN headquarters in New York. I'm Shamir Rasuldin reporting for News First from the UN headquarters in New York, USA.
Moving back to news from here at home, Colombo Additional Magistrate Prasanna Alvis today ordered the Criminal Investigations Department to remind the Attorney General to issue the necessary instructions to arrest parliamentarian Duminda Silva. The order was issued when the inquiry into the killing of Bharata Lakshman Premachandra and 3 others was taken up in court today.
Counsel representing the late Bharata Lakshman Premachandra informed court today that it was nearly a year since the killing had taken place. He pointed out that while 3 attorney generals have served in that time frame, none have issued the necessary instructions. The Criminal Investigations Department said that they would obtain instructions from the Attorney General and expeditiously report to court. Meanwhile, counsel representing parliamentarian Duminda Silva stated that his client is not a suspect in the case. He said that certain individuals were making various statements to point the finger at him. Considering the facts presented before court, the additional magistrate further remanded the suspects until the 16th of this month. About a year ago, I stood at this very spot and said that I would pursue this case to the end. It is the same Hirunika who made that statement who is standing here today. There has been no change. I will fight until my father gets justice. Also, I must thank the people who have been speaking for us, for standing by us through this year. I am thankful to both the good and bad, especially the media who are here. There will be an alms giving for my father on the 8th at our home, and I would like to invite all the people who extended their love to us and who are awaiting justice to participate in this alms giving.
Opposition leader Ranil Wickremesinghe says that a reasonable wage increment is a necessity through the upcoming budget. He made this statement at a media briefing today.
The opposition leader Ranil Wickremesinghe met with a group of trade union leaders today. The meeting was held to discuss trade union action to secure a wage increment through the upcoming budget. Although they did not increase wages in the last budget, they have increased the prices of almost everything. For instance, fuel prices and electricity bills have gone up. State sector workers are facing many hardships. The price increases have affected the private sector as well. I do not need to tell you about the estate sector. The government does not care about these people. How many people here are not in debt? Is there anyone? All of us are debtors. Now is the time to secure the money we need to live. We cannot wait for another budget. We need it in 2013. And if they don't give it to us this year, we need to be ready.
ජීවත් වීමේ අයිතිය ඉල්ලලා කරන සටනක් මේ සටන. ඒ නිසා අපි
This is a struggle for the right to live. Therefore, we propose that in order to live, monthly wages need to be increased by at least 10,000 rupees. That is our collective demand. We also invite other trade unions to join us in taking this forward.
අපි ඒකාබද්ධව අනුගත වෘත්තීය සමිතිවලටත් ආරාධනය කරනවා